The Harrier is one of the legends in military aviation history. This short takeoff and vertical landing, shortly stalled combat aircraft has eliminated the necessity of long runways for the air forces and catapults and arresting hooks for the navies. It successfully fought and changed the course of a major war. Now, we are investigating the family of the Harrier jump jet, a story of a brilliant success. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel before we start and give us a thumbs up if you like our video. To be notified of our new video, please click the bell button. Also, you can now click the join button to support our channel. The Harrier had a high accident ratio, low combat load, and subsonic speed. Still, this little bird of prey proved its value and managed to be indispensable. The Harrier family had two generations. In this video, we are focusing on the first generation. The second generation, the Harrier II, will be the subject of our next video. When the First Cold War arose, everyone knew that all air bases near the front of both sides would be destroyed in a matter of hours in a possible Third World War. So, the USA had begun the works on a vertical takeoff and landing aircraft as early as the 1950s to solve this problem. The UK quickly realized the importance of this new type of aircraft and began to develop an experimental aircraft called the SC-1 in 1953. In the next decade, many other Western European countries and the USSR would follow the USA and the UK in this field. In those years, one of the most expensive parts of a jet fighter was the engine. Generally, the designers worked on aircraft which had separate lift engines and cruise engines. This design was making the platform highly expensive. Also, more engines meant higher empty weight, which decreased the payload. Besides, it caused a nightmarish workload for maintenance. So, by the mid-1960s, all Western countries terminated their vertical takeoff and landing aircraft programs one by one, except for the UK. The Brits had followed a different path. A Bristol Engine Company engineer, Gordon Lewis, had begun to apply Michel Vibous's vector thrust for vertical takeoff and landing idea on jet engines in 1956. This work led to the development of the Pegasus engine. The next step was to build an aircraft around this engine. In the same year, the British aviation company Hawker Aircraft had begun the work on P-1121 to replace the Hawker Hunter jets. But in 1958, this project was terminated. So the company decided to study a new aircraft with the Pegasus engine, which would compete for NATO's new Light Tactical Support Fighter program to replace the Fiat G91. In 1959, the UK decided to support the project and ordered new aircraft called P-1127 for the trials. Different from other projected vertical takeoff and landing aircraft in the world, the P-1127 had a single engine. It made its first hover flight on October 21, 1960. 1 year later, the aircraft vertically took off and horizontally flew. These were tremendous achievements, so Germany and the USA decided to join this program. Now, 3 countries were working on the new model called Kestrel. The Kestrel made its first flight on March 7, 1964. Yet, the Air Force staff of these 3 countries were not satisfied with the aircraft's subsonic speed and low payload capacity. So, Hawker, now called Hawker Siddeley Aircraft, began to work on a new supersonic variant called P-1154. But Germany and the USA did not support this new project, and the UK could not afford the cost single-handedly. So in 1965, the P-1154 program was terminated. Following the termination, the Royal Air Force began considering a simple upgrade of the existing Kestrel and ordered 6 pre-production aircraft. The new aircraft made its first flight on August 31, 1966. The results were satisfactory, and UK ordered 60 production aircraft, now called Harrier. In 1969, it was introduced to the Royal Air Force's service. We will not mention the aircraft design features to avoid extending our time. The Royal Air Force acquired 61 Harrier GR1s. This variant had an 84.7 kN Rolls-Royce Pegasus Mark 101 turbofan. The lengthened 2-seat training version of the GR1 was Harrier T2. The GR1A variant had a 91.4 kN Pegasus Mark 102 turbofan. Hawker Siddeley Aircraft produced 17 new-built GR1As. A further 41 GR1s were upgraded to GR1A configuration. All Harrier T2As were upgraded versions of the T2s with the Pegasus Mark 102s. A common mistake is to suppose that the GR3 is a variant of the Harrier equipped with the laser rangefinder and marked target seeker, shortly LRMTS. But actually, having the 95.9 kN Pegasus Mark 103 made the GR3 a new variant. This model also had a radar warning receiver on the fin and tail boom. Yet, we should add that the increased engine power allowed the integration of the LRMTS. So the first assumption is not wrong to some degree. 40 new build GR3s were produced and about 60 converted from GR1 and GR1As. The two-seat training version of the GR3 was the Harrier T4A. The Harrier T4 had the same engine as the GR3 but lacked the LRMTS. The AV-8A Harrier was simply the US Marine Corps variant of the GR1, but it could also carry air-to-air missiles. Its Pegasus 11 turbofan was produced by Pratt & Whitney and designated as F-102 RR-402. The first 59 aircraft had the FE-451 navigation attack system, but this highly sophisticated system made maintenance complex. So, later AV-8As were equipped with the simplified IWAC navigation attack system. Later, the previous aircraft were also re-equipped with the IWAC. In 1979, the US Marine Corps upgraded the AV-8As to the AV-8C configuration to extend their useful service lives and improve stall performance. The TAV-8A Harrier was the two-seat training version. The AV-8S Matador, also known as VA-1 Matador, was the version of the AV-8A produced for the Spanish Navy. Its two-seat training version was the TAV-8S Matador. Spain, Thailand, the UK, and the USA were the former users of the first-generation Harrier. The GR3 version of the Harrier had a length of 14.27 meters, a wingspan of 7.75 meters, and a height of 3.63 meters. Its wing area was 18.68 square meters. The empty weight of the aircraft was about 6,140 kilograms, while its maximum takeoff weight was about 11,430 kilograms. One Rolls-Royce Pegasus Mark 103 turbofan engine provided a maximum speed of 1,176 kilometers per hour. The aircraft could reach a range of 3,430 kilometers. The Harrier GR3's combat radius was 670 kilometers. Its service ceiling is 15,600 meters, in other words 51,200 feet. The aircraft had two Aden guns in underbelly pods. It could carry different types of bombs and rocket pods. Later, the Harrier GR3 gained the capability of firing the AIM-9 Sidewinder air-to-air missiles. The naval variant of the first-generation Harrier was the Sea Harrier. Hawker Siddeley aircraft had demonstrated the Kestrel's capabilities on HMS Ark Royal in 1963. But at that time, the Royal Navy had required a twin-engine supersonic fighter, so it had acquired the F-4. But the CVA-01 program was cancelled in 1966, and the HMS Ark Royal was decommissioned in 1979. The naval version of the Harrier was the only suitable aircraft for the new Invincible-class carriers. So, the Royal Navy ordered 24 Sea Harriers in 1975. The aircraft was introduced to the Fleet Air Arms Service in 1978. Different from the Harriers of the Royal Air Force, the Sea Harrier had the I-band Blue Fox radar, a bubble canopy, and the Pegasus Mark 106 turbofan. The engine had aluminum alloy fans and casing to resist corrosion. The Sea Harrier also had minor differences in size and weight. The first production variant was the Sea Harrier FRS-1. It had only the capability of firing AIM-9 Sidewinder missiles. Its two-seat training version was the Harrier T4N, which had no radar. In 1988, the FRS-1 were upgraded to FA-2 standards. This variant had the Blue Vixen radar, and it could fire the AIM-120 AMRAAM air-to-air missiles. The Harrier T4Ns were also re-equipped with the FA-2's avionics and renamed as Harrier T8. The Sea Harrier FRS-51 was the Indian version of the aircraft, but they had R-550 Magic missiles instead of the Sidewinders. Later, India modernized its Sea Harriers and equipped them with the Alta ELM-2032 radar and the Derby missiles. The two-seat training version of the Sea Harrier FRS-51 were the Harrier T4I and the Harrier T60. India and the UK were the former users of the Sea Harrier. Initially, the Royal Air Force had one operational conversion and 4 combat squadrons. The number 3, 4, and 20th squadrons were deployed in Gütersloh, West Germany, against a possible Third World War. Later, the Harriers of the number 20 squadron were distributed to number 3 and number 4. In case of a war, the aircraft of each squadron would be distributed to 6 predetermined air sites. A whole strike group could be transported from one location to another in 5 to 6 hours under cover of darkness. But this was not an easy task. All squadrons had nearly 300 vehicles. Yes, a Harrier could execute a new sortie in about 20 minutes after it returned from the mission. But to change the engine, the wings had to be removed. Under the chaos of the war, the Spetsnaz troop could find and raid the sites. So, all personnel, including ground crew, carried firearms and performed guard duty. The number 3 and number 4 squadrons continued to train their crew for this mission in the woods. But in reality, they would deploy their Harriers in the urbanized area in the war. The number 1 squadron was mobile, and it was organized to rapid deployment in the northern and southern flanks of NATO in case of a war. Until the 1980s, the Harriers of this squadron joined many exercises in Greece and Turkey. But with their white and green camouflages, they became mediatic in Norway. The Harriers of the number 1 squadron protected Belize against a possible Guatemalan invasion. But also, they fought against the actual Argentine invasion of the Falklands. The Harriers of the number 1 squadron had been occasionally deployed on the aircraft carriers of the Royal Navy since 1971. But neither the pilots nor the aircraft was really suitable for carrier operations. When Argentina invaded the Falklands, the UK quickly began to modify the GR-3s. The engineers added shackles to the outriggers to allow aircraft to be tied down to the deck. The GR-3s were equipped with an I-band transponder for the carrier approaching. Now, they had the necessary wiring and switches for the Sidewinder missiles. The GR-3s were also fitted with chaff flares. The Harrier GR-3 pilots were trained for air-to-air combat with the Lightnings of the Royal Air Force and the Mirage 3s of the French Air Force. According to the initial plan, the Harrier GR-3 would supplement the Sea Harriers for air combat duties over the Falklands. The Royal Navy anticipated that it would lose a large number of the aircraft. But the Sea Harriers made history. These subsonic combat aircraft with low payload shot down 20 Argentine aircraft. So, the Harrier GR-3s were used for only ground attack and reconnaissance roles. During the war, the UK lost 6 Sea Harriers and 4 Harrier GR-3s. None of them was shot down by Argentine aircraft. The biggest enemy of the Harriers in the Falklands was the ground-based air defense systems. After the British victory, the Harrier continued to be deployed on the Port Stanley until 1985. The Falklands War was the first and last battle of the Harrier GR-3s. But the Sea Harriers continued to fight over the Balkans during the 1990s. One of them was shot down by Serbian manpads. The US Marine Corps experience on the Harriers was relatively smooth. The aircraft never saw a battle, but the high accident rate was the main problem. In the early 1970s, the Pentagon approved to test the sea control ship concept of Admiral Elmo Zumwalt. It included using small escort aircraft carriers, providing air support for convoys. So the US Navy deployed the AV-8As on USS Guam to test the concept. In 1972, the ship began extensive trials, but later this project was terminated. In 1976, an AV-8A squadron was deployed on the aircraft carrier USS Franklin D. Roosevelt. The squadron performed about 2,000 sorties about a year without a loss. The US Navy also considered deploying AV-8A on the Iowa-class battleships, but later abandoned the plan. The Indian, Spanish, and Thai experiences were also smooth. Today, all first-generation Harrier variants are retired, but its success paved the way for the development of the second generation. We will investigate the second generation, the Harrier II, in our next video. Thanks for watching our video. And please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give us a thumbs up if you liked our video. To be notified of our new videos, please click the bell button. Also, you can now click the join button to support our channel.